Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, so this happened a year ago at my local grocery store. So it all started when I picked my kid up from school, and not long after, my kid said the words, "Dad, I'm hungry." And after saying we will eat at home, I had just then realized we were running low on food at home. I really didn't want to run to the store, but those dreaded 3 words circled in my head. So I thought, okay, what's the easiest place to go and buy something? And then I remembered Sprouts had a 10% off sale on Wednesday and I wasn't far. So that's where me and little RC, my daughter, journey begins. First, we arrived at the grocery store, and before we even entered, I saw my cop friend. How I know her is a story for another time. She was getting ready to brave the store just as I was. So after a short walk, we both enter the store and go our separate ways. So first there was a frozen foods aisle, then a soda and water aisle, and next we headed to the cake making desk. And because it was about to be my little angel's 10th birthday, so I ordered the cake she chose. It was a chocolate cake with a white buttercream filling and white top frosting with a beautiful pink icing flower on top. It was $35, but it was worth it. I ate only one slice though and almost died. But as I finished the order, I felt RC pull on my sleeve and point at the treat aisle. I had almost forgotten that every time we enter the store, it was almost a tradition to get at least one thing from that aisle. So we entered that aisle, but as RC was picking out a treat, the entitled mother of our story entered the aisle with her entitled son in tow. So as RC had just picked out a treat, chocolate malt balls, the entitled kid pushed her out of the way, and before I could respond, this witch said, I'm not kidding,
"Good job, honey. Teach that filthy casual a lesson."
Oh, heck no, I thought. I spun around and in her face so fast that Flash would be jealous. The kid was now shoveling all chocolate treats into one bag, which is a big no-no in the store. Little RC was holding on to my leg, almost crying. While me and the entitled mother were yelling about bad parenting and how we should raise each other's child, my cop friend was in the next aisle, recording everything. Then the entitled mother really screwed up by saying she was calling the police for harassment. Let's just say my cop friend rounded the corner like a bullet, almost making her car drift as she did. And she was in her face with a badge, handcuffs and a recorder and said, "Oh yeah? Well, that's funny. Good thing they are already here. Good thing they are already here. And gonna even arrest you for harassment." Busted. Let's just say she grabbed her child and tried backtracking as fast as she could. Then, when that wasn't working, she tried running for the door. Oh my god. I will never forget how fast she had caught up to her, tackled her like she was a football player, handcuffed her, and had her in a squad car of one of the police ones that had arrived on the scene. In the end, my baby got her treat. The entitled kid went home with his father, and me and RC went home and had a big laugh. This isn't a usual parent tries to take service dog type story. My dog is too dense to be a service dog, and this wasn't a parent as far as I know, so I thought it would be a nice different story. So I go to my local dollar store a lot. They know me by name and I have a favorite cashier, Nancy. Not her real name, of course. And we usually talk about how our lives are going, and she's never met my family, but she gave me a card to give to my sister for her birthday, and I give her daughter-in-law a card as a congratulations for her baby. I also know where everything is at the store, and so on. Another frequent customer is my dog, Stella. She's my sweet little black pointer mix who's kinda stupid, but in the best way. She likes to be in a car, but she doesn't like to ride in them, and she likes to go in a store with me. But she is very shy. She's never been properly trained, but she's extremely well behaved in stores. The only issue she's ever had is pulling on the leash and snapping at other dogs. So she wears a harness and isn't allowed in PetSmart. Now everyone who works at the dollar store knows Stella too. She likes to go and get a new cheap toy she's allowed to tear apart. Her favorite thing is to rip out squeakers. And Nancy keeps dog treats behind her register just for her. And of course, she gets lots of pets and butt scratches every time she goes for other customers. And of course, she gets lots of pets and butt scratches every time she goes from other customers. She's a good girl. So one day we went to the dollar store as normal. I was getting my assortment of junk I don't really need but I get regularly. Stella got a new toy that was just one big squeaker wrapped in cloth and some treats to help her teeth. After about 15 minutes of chatting with someone about dogs and about 40 altogether minutes of shopping, probably more, I can spend 10 minutes alone picking out a cheap candle, I really had to pee. Too much coffee, I suppose. The problem was Stella has a problem with toilets. Not sure why, I think it's a flushing noise, just makes her shake. And I couldn't take my stuff into the bathroom anyways. So Nancy let me tie her in my cart next to her register while I went in. When I came out there was a man standing at the cash register, arguing with Nancy. I came over and I could hear what he was saying.
Don't you get it, you old hag?
Nancy was about 60.
I want the dog.
Nancy, flustered, tells him, "Sir, she isn't for sale. She doesn't belong to the store."
Well, she can't belong to you, so she must be for sale.
Me taking Stella's leash from being tied around the handle of a locked drawer. She was freaking out. I say, "She belongs to me, sir. She doesn't like the bathroom." So Nancy was watching her for me. The entitled man smirks at me and pulls out his wallet, holding up $2.
Then you can sell her to me. Here.
He held the money out to me and I tightened my grip on Stella's leash. I am not selling my dog, and even if I was, it wouldn't be for $2. He rolls his eyes and says,
You're in a dollar store. $2 to cover tax. You can keep the rest. I want the dog. She'll make a good hunting dog.
No, I don't care. She's my dog. She's not for sale and she doesn't belong to the dollar store. And he gets angry.
Then just give her to me. You don't need a service dog. Just look at you.
Stella was getting scared now. She was hiding behind my leg now, shaking. I had to take her home or else I would have to carry her out. Stella wasn't a small dog either, so I'd either have to take my stuff I was buying or her. I wouldn't leave her alone to be scared just to make 2 trips to my car. I tell him no, she's not a service dog. She is not a hunting dog, and she won't be your dog. She's mine and you're scaring her. Now leave us alone. He then reached out and grabbed my wrist, trying to wrench Stella's leash from my hand. I had the end looped through my wrist, so he couldn't pull it out of my hand. Though his pulling and his grip hurt so much. Stop it, leave me alone. I tried to pull my hand away, but he wouldn't let go. The entitled man says,
Give me your dog, you little witch. You don't need her. I will call the police and tell them you stole her.
Everything was getting out of control. I could hear people yelling. Stella was whimpering, and all I felt was pain. I didn't know about the second, but I was crying. I always cry when I get really angry. I started trying to beat on his hand with my fist to get him off, but I am not that strong. That was when I saw him reach into his pocket and pull out a pocket knife, trying to cut Stella's leash. I screamed knife to try and get more attention. Finally, 3 employees were able to yank him off of me. Though him being pulled back with the knife positioned where it was, where he was trying to cut the leash was sliced. And just due to force I fell back on my back. Stella crawled into my lap, still shaking. He growled and reached down, grabbing Stella around the neck. She yelped and bit him hard, making him yell more and smack her nose. I smacked his hand away and rubbed Stella's neck, still crying as I held her close. The entitled man had stopped trying to grab my dog, but no one was trusting him, so they used some zip ties
as temporary handcuffs, and his knife was taken away while police were called. Nancy let me hide behind the register while I calmed Stella down. They would have let me sit in the back, but one of the workers in the back was apparently allergic to dogs, so I couldn't. When the police came, the man looked confident and tried to convince them that the dog belonged to him. He was spinning a tale of how Stella was just sitting there waiting for him to get done shopping, when Nancy told him that he had to pay to get the dog back because she wanted to give her to me instead. Because clearly I was her daughter. Of course, everyone who was there regularly knew better, and between eyewitnesses and the security tapes, the man was put in handcuffs and got arrested. The police took the entitled man away, and he was also banned from the store after giving me the $2 he was going to use to buy my dog to buy her a new leash. Nancy let us sit behind the register a few minutes after the police left with the man, and before I paid for my things, I ended up getting them all half off, except Stella's toy and treats, which were free, and took my poor puppy home. She now has ripped all of the cloth off of the toy and tore the squeaker in half, and has seemed to have forgotten the whole event. The story is about my brother, not me. It happened about 15 years ago when he was a teenager. He and his friends liked to walk everywhere because none of them drove at the time. We have public transportation here, but they liked to see who could walk somewhere the fastest. My brother at the time was about 6'3", 6'7" now, muscular and a black teenager. So my brother was going to the mall. We live in the third largest city in our country, so we have multiple malls. He had never been to this one, but he had directions written down. As he was walking, he got lost. My mom always told him to find a reasonable-looking adult for help. My brother walked up to this woman, the entitled parent of the story, who had her child with her and asked her for directions. The entitled parent pointed down the street and told my brother to walk that way. My brother took off walking, and 5 minutes later, he was pulled over by the police. They told him they were looking for a tall black man with green eyes wearing a white t-shirt and jeans. My brother thought his friend who fit the description might have done something. They asked my brother what he was doing in the neighborhood he was in, and he told them he was walking to the mall. They asked if he had spoken to anyone, and he said he talked to the entitled parents. They held him for a few minutes until another police car pulled up with the entitled kid and parent in it. My brother was confused when he saw them. He thought that whatever was wrong would be cleared up because all he did was ask her for directions. And how wrong he was. At this point, he still didn't know why the police pulled him over. The woman pointed to him and said, "That's him. That's the man that tried to rob us." My brother was speechless. The entitled kid was behind her mother softly crying. She said she was scared. I forgot to mention that these were white females. I don't like talking about race, but in this case, it's relevant. My brother was being arrested. They put him in handcuffs and put him in the back of a police car. He was not fighting or arguing. He did tell them he was just trying to ask for directions because he was lost. The entitled mother said, "People like you don't belong in this neighborhood. The only reason why you will be here is to rob somebody. You scared my little girl to death. I hope you spend the rest of your life in jail where you belong." At this point, my 15-year-old brother is crying. Even though he's tall, he's still just a kid. Just a tall, dorky child who had never come across this type of person before. He was sitting in the back of a police car, convinced he would never see his family again. Another police car pulls up with a supervisor inside. The supervisor asked a question nobody else had thought to ask of this woman. He asked, "What exactly did he say and do to you?" She said, "That black boy was trying to rob me. He asked me for directions and I told him which way to go. I just knew he was going to come back later and steal my purse or worse." And the supervisor then asked, how did she know he was going to steal from her if he walked away? And she said, "Because that's what those people do. I told my daughter we were going to do the right thing and make sure he couldn't hurt anyone. This is a good neighborhood. People like him do not belong here." So the supervisor said, "Let me get this straight. So he asked you for directions and you gave it to him, then he walked away in a direction you told him to walk in. That's how we knew where he was. He did not threaten you or your child. You just don't think he belongs in this neighborhood. The supervisor ordered the other officer to release my brother, and my brother was still crying and shaking. He was a good kid and had never been in any kind of trouble. The supervisor apologized to my brother as the entitled mother was cursing about them letting a dangerous criminal go. The supervisor lectured the entitled mother and asked her to go to the station with them since this is considered lying to the police and giving misinformation. And they also ended up giving my brother a ride to the mall. My brother is now an IT guy and does really well for himself. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.